Hi, thanks for joining us. In this video we're going to take a look at how we would go about adding users to the Pronto solution. First thing I've done is fired up our demo site of our corporate office up in the Boston area, and I'm going to maximize my Internet Explorer window. This gives me a full screen view. I've logged in and I've been taken directly to my landing page. On my landing page there's a lot of activities and tasks that are important to me and my role in the solution. In this case, the very top right one, or Add People, is where we'll focus our attention today. I'll click on Add People and be taken to a screen that allows me to now fill in some information. I'm going to create a new user that we're going to add to the solution, and we'll go through all the tabs. First, it starts by asking you what the last name is. You see it's a required field because it has little red asterisks at the top. We're going to give them the last name of subject and a first name of test. Their activation date and time is today, immediately, and no specific time, with no expiration date or time as well. We can set credentials to expire after a specific amount of time. If I add notes, added for user video. And if I had an employee ID or other information, I could keep it here. Most often when we're adding a user to the solution, we're just going to be issuing them a credential, and a lot of the times that's it. The first tab we're on in the personal information screen is access control. Here I can add a new credential. When I click on add new credential, there's several different ways I can go about adding a new credential here. I could manually enter the hot stamp and encoded number of a credential, or I could hit read. Read allows us to present a credential that's not known to the system. It is smart enough to remember if a card that you've just presented actually belongs to somebody else. If you present a new card that the system doesn't recognize to a specific reader, it can read the information from the card itself because we have a card decoder built into the Pronto solution. Sometimes this is easier if we have a local reader. We could say, read a card from the suite entrance, hit go, and you'll see for the next 90 seconds it's waiting to see if a credential is presented to it. As soon as that credential was presented, it would automatically read that information and enter the hot stamp and encoded number here for us. In this case, we'll just go ahead and enter a random number. We'll enter 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. By default, it's a 26-bit Wiegand card format. And you'll see I've entered a number that I've previously assigned to a different subject test. Do I want to reassign this card? No. So you can see I wasn't able to issue the same credential to two people simultaneously. In this case, we'll just make a number of 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5, and the system will accept that. The credential format, again, is a 26-bit Wiegand. Of course, we can go anything up to 128-bit Wiegand, and there's a variety of different credentials in here as well. The status is active. If I wanted to disable this card, for instance, if it was an employee or perhaps a contractor who will not be returning to the facility and they still have their card, we may want to set their status to disabled. We wouldn't want to delete it entirely. We wanted to disable it so that it wouldn't work again. And of course, if it had any automatic expiration date. In this case, there isn't one, so we'll just continue. Next, we have any access levels. We have a separate video about how we set up our access levels in the Pronto solution, which you can see on YouTube. However, in this case, we're just going to assign some of the ones that we've done in the past. So we'll give test subject here, cleaner day, and cleaner night access, because he may come either during the day or the night. If we had a pin pad or a combo keypad and pin, we can enter that information here. And we also have ADA extended unlock. For the Americans with Disabilities Act, if somebody needed a longer amount of time for the door to be unlocked so that they could get through quickly, or get through in a proper amount of time, we could set that here. The extended unlock time is customizable at the per door level. So in addition to the regular 5 seconds that somebody might get, your average person who did not require the extended unlock to get through a door, we might have extended this individual to now have, for instance, 15 seconds of unlock time to get through the door. Next, photo ID. If we have a photo, we can attach a JPEG or JPG file, anything up to about 1 meg or 1024 kilobytes. You can just browse your hard drive or over a network and grab a picture and input it here. That picture will be shown in the top right of their credential evermore. It's important to get a good picture of the individual, especially if you're using a VR series. The VR series now allows you to simultaneously view the video of an individual and their credentials picture at the same time. If you wanted to verify that the person who's actually accessing the system is the person whose picture is there, you could have the live video or the recorded video and that person's credential information pop up simultaneously. A good picture is always a good idea. We also have a variety of user-defined fields. These are searchable, so anything that you might want to keep track of or search for is beneficial here. Some examples I've seen in the past are CPR trained. If we need find somebody quickly who had CPR training, we'd very quickly be able to do a search for all of our users who have CPR training anywhere in their credential information. Anything like that we could store here. Perhaps they're a member of an executive team. We could input all that information there, and that way it's searchable if we're ever looking for somebody specifically. Of course, any of the contact details, phone, email, SMS email, and location. Email and SMS email make it easier when we trigger events. If this individual was to be notified either by email or SMS text message whenever there was a door forced open, for example, we might set up an event to do that. It would use their credential information, their SMS email or their regular email information here to allow us to pick them to receive that. If we have other contact details, for instance a spouse or emergency number, we could put it here. Vehicles, if we wanted to track, we could also do here. And lastly, we have login. Not everybody that receives a credential necessarily needs a login. Conversely, not everyone who receives a login will ever have a credential. Some folks will just want to be able to access the solution and be able to present a credential and walk into the building. They will never need to have access to log into the Pronto, as I've done right now where I'm adding a user. In that case, we simply wouldn't put any information in here in the login. We would just not issue them a username or password, and thus the system wouldn't recognize them. They wouldn't be able to log in. However, if we did want somebody to have access, we would be able to put it in here. We'll give them a username of test subject, and we'll give them a password of test subject. And confirm the password by, again, writing in test subject. Last, we're going to select the user role. We have 3 different roles in the solution. We have system setup, administrator, and monitoring. A system setup unlocks this cog tab. This cog tab is where we do a lot of our setup in many of the other videos. Access levels, events, time specs, the real setup solution part of an S2 Pronto. An administrator would not have this cog tab at all because they wouldn't have access to the setup. Instead, they'd have access to the administration tab. Add or change users, run reports, basic information like that. Lastly, we have the monitor. This role simply This role simply allows somebody to come in and access the view-only portion. Once we're done setting up this individual, we could just click Save. In this case, we hadn't given them a role, and it gave us an error message. So we're going to give them System Setup access. We can also now select their widget desktop preference. If we had a pre-configured desktop that we wanted them to be able to use, we could use it here just by simply selecting it, and they would immediately go to that widget desktop when they selected widget desktop. If you set it as none, it will present you with the option to choose any one from the list that we have here. In this case, I'll just select none. They don't need to log into a specific one, and we'll click Save. See at the top left, it was saving the data, and now that person's updated in the database. We can go back to our Administration tab, and if we wanted to now search and confirm that that person's in there, we'll search for people. We'll search for the last name subject, and we'll hit search. In this case, we only have one person with the last name subject, so it took us immediately to that credential. If we had multiple people, it would present us with a list and allow us to choose from that list of all the people with the last name subject that existed in the system. So we could confirm that that person's here. If we also be able to make changes to this solution or to the individual, we could do that here as well. For instance, now I might want to create this card I've created and set it as a disabled. I'm going to save that now. From the status, I've disabled that user's credential. They no longer have access, but we are still monitoring that card and the history of that credential. The person still continues to have their login information in order to access, but if we wanted to take that away too, we would simply delete their username, their password, and click Save. We need to select None as the user role. Now they don't have a valid credential, and they no longer have access to be able to Pronto.